Hello and welcome to the Prospect Blueprint. I'm Kelly Kleiman and my battery mate is Mr. Rick Dempsey, 24-year MLB vet and fan favorite with the Twins, Yankees, Orioles, Brewers, and Dodgers, and the 1983 MVP in the World Series for the Baltimore Orioles. Hi, Rick.
How you doing?
I got to think you're
to this one today. We're talking to a Baltimore boy, or actually in that area.
Hello, Tom's in South Carolina.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
That's right. What am I on? I got all my names mixed up this week. So, okay.
Right, yeah. Well, here's why. He's been coaching a bunch of dentists, lawyers, and accountants in the Dodger fantasy camp. He was in the sun too long.
Oh, my God. You're right about that. Man, 4 days from 8 in the morning to 8 at night. That was a long fantasy camp.
Well, our guest tonight is a gentleman who is going into his 13th year as the head coach at Winthrop University in beautiful Rock Hill, South Carolina. He's looking to get back into that 30-plus win category, and we're pulling for him to get the arms and consistent bats that he's going to need to get the job done. We salute longevity on the Prospect Blueprint, right, Rick? You know a little bit about that.
Oh, absolutely. You're talking to a long career, so I know exactly how he feels.
Go for it. You're going to throw the first pitch today, Rick.
Well, yeah, you're right. I mean, one thing I have yet to understand about college coaches is this recruiting process. How's it going for you so far this summer?
I'll be honest with you, Rick, it's a little bit different this year. With the portal really hitting hard this year. This is the first year we've been hit hard by the portal. So this past week was my first week. I was actually down in Florida for a week watching my first high school games. But the first 5-6 weeks of summer recruiting, I was on college. I was watching college summer games. We were, in the Valley, the CPL, the Southern Collegiate League, and we were all over the place. Down in Florida a little bit there. That's what our focus is to really try to solidify our 2022 team. Don't get too far ahead of ourselves with the 23 or 24 class. And that's what my staff and I have been doing. And I think we've been really successful in doing that. So we kind of turn the switches, and we've had one of my assistants on the road, still watching the 23 class and 24 class, where the other two of us have been really hitting the college summer leagues hard and junior colleges hard, just so we can solidify the 22 team before we went on to the 23, 24 team.
What events do you prioritize, and what's the criteria that you use to determine where you're going to recruit talent? I know you've got the PG, you've got travel ball tourneys, you mentioned college summer leagues for Portland JUCO.
I think for me, I'm going into my 31st year of coaching on a Division I level. So, you have a lot of relationships out there, right? I think that's one of the biggest things that you do is you develop relationships over the years with the travel ball community. And I think there's just been tournaments that I've gone to, for the last 15 to 20 years that we've had success with, and then with certain programs out there. So, I think you're going to go basic early in the summer. Like for us personally, we'll hit the NC State games, North Carolina State games. We'll do some local tournaments. The Black Bears, another big one that's been coming. It's a really good tournament about the last 4 or 5 years in the Greenville area. And then sometimes we'll go down to Jupiter or West Palm Beach area. And then we always are hitting the PBRs and the perfect games, the WWBA 17U, the WWBA 16U. And then, we just got back my assistant just got back from the PBR Futures game. So those are some of the things that we've had a lot of success with. For me, when you go to Atlanta, or like I said, I was down at a BCS perfect game in Fort Myers, you're seeing anywhere from 100 to 300 teams within a week time period. Now, for a program like us, it just makes sense, dollars and cents wise, from a budgetary standpoint, where we can stay in Atlanta for a week and we're seeing, a whole bunch of teams and a whole bunch of players. So it also makes sense from a budgetary standpoint.
Tommy, how do you do it when you have to pitch a top prospect and you want to try to convince him? These guys from Texas, Florida, California, Arizona, all the warm weather states and everything, to choose Winthrop, especially when Winthrop is kind of an expensive school. So you got to be a little bit of a magician here.
I think, just like anything, you have what I call your honey holes. You go down to the places where you're always had play. Like I'm from Florida. I've had assistants from Florida. So we always get down to Florida just because of the relationships. Do we go out to California, Arizona, Washington a lot? No, we don't. Just because our name recognition, isn't really going out there, and it costs a lot more money to go out there. So on a regular basis, we don't go out there. Now, are we going to get some kids from out there every once in a while, especially right now in the portal situation? Yes. But if we're just straight up recruiting high school players, we really stay we don't go much further than Tallahassee. We don't get into Alabama. We'll go up basically from all in the Northeast, Florida, South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia. We'll work our way up to Maryland, Virginia, get into Ohio, Pennsylvania. But really, we don't go west, basically west of Tallahassee. If you drew a line all the way up, we don't really get in there much.
When you, what is your take? I know a lot of coaches, I've heard a lot from them lately on these showcases that have all of a sudden showed up over the last couple of years. It kind of makes it tough, doesn't it?
I think the parents have to be, kind of knowledgeable on what you're doing, how much money you're spending, because there is a lot of those showcases. They're just out there trying to make a dime. For me, it's better to go see a tournament, or even better, if you're going to spend money on a showcase, what I tell parents, it's better to probably go to a personal camp, right? Most all programs have these high school prospect camps. Some of them are 1 day, some days are 2 days. But what that does, it shows the coach that they have a sincere interest in your program if they're coming to your camp. And like for us, for our camp, when we do it, all my coaches are there, right? So we don't hire high school kids or high school coaches or other coaches. It's just my staff. So that they're getting a very good look by all part of our staff members. So I think that's really important. Sometimes you go to these showcases and, they're a cattle herd, right? It's hard to keep your concentration when you got 150 players going through within a 3-hour time period. I mean, it's just a lot to ask to keep that concentration up so much. And they may get 2 or 3 ground balls. They may get 2 or 3 hits. They may get, a couple rounds of BP. They may get 1 or 2 at bats, and you're supposed to make a decision off that. So that's why I really kind of, if you're going to choose between a showcase or a personal camp, I say go to the personal camp 9 times out of 10.
Yeah, I can see where they do that. Yeah.
It could get expensive though, because, think about it. If you're a player and there's 3,000 kids in the portal and the high school kids, you can't really narrow it down to one particular college,
No, you can't. It's tough. And I think this is what we're really trying to feel out right now and learning is that the high school kids are going to get hurt a little bit by this portal, right? I mean, because you just look at from, a player perspective or a coach perspective, right? You're taking a portal, a player that, has a proven track record, right? Over a 2 or 3 year period, right? Compared to a high school kid that has no track record, going into college. You're going to take that kid with a little bit of a track record. Like for us, we've had a lot of luck so far in the portal with Division II and Division III guys that have success, right? Because you got all good, because whenever a kid leaves a program, there's usually a reason why, right? There's some reason why. So, that's where you just kind of dig in a little bit, get to know the kids a little bit. But again, that's where, and not saying that we're not going to recruit high school kids. So we still are, because that's going to be our bread and butter. But you also see what the positive will be with the portals and even the junior college guys that are late are still available. Up until 2 weeks ago, there's so many kids still available out there looking for a place to play.
Yeah. Well, I actually shake my head at that now, because for the longest time, JUCO baseball was frowned upon, but now it's a very fertile growing field, for development, because there's so many good players that have gone. And there was a school out of El Camino that had 18 D1 bounce backs. El Camino in Southern California. I think my kids had a couple on theirs as well, and more coming next year. They're bounce backs as well. Let's discuss the paradigm shift that's taken place in college sports. You mentioned the transfer portal, and The NIL. How does that affect your program as kids kind of chase dollars outside of just scholarships and they're willing to bail if they don't get playing time in the outset? That's the problem with the portal, right? Kid doesn't get any playing time, he's got to bail. Are you more inclined to scan JUCOs for more experience? And you mentioned this, D2s and D3s, primarily because they run less of a portal risk, or just because, or is it a combination because they are more experienced players?
More experienced players. I think that's a really good question. But I just think that's what you get to is they're a little bit more experienced and they have a track record. Now, the problem that we're running into is when you were a high school kid recruiting them, it's more of a longer process, right? You get to talk to them. You get to talk to the parents, right? A lot of times they come on campus. The parents are sitting in front of you. You can look at them eye to eye. You can read body language, right? You get to see them more than once or twice, right? Usually a high school kid, you're seeing them 2 or 3 times before you're making a decision, okay? With the portal kids, right? So you're going in the summer. Sometimes they don't have time to visit. You're doing everything on the phone. You're doing it through Zoom again, right? You don't really get to feel what they're all about. So, and that comes back to where your culture is in your program, right? So when you start doing so many, you're right, you're going to have to make sure you do the best you can of talking to as many people as you can, right? For those portal kids, because the recruiting process is a lot shorter. I mean, sometimes it's 2 phone calls, 3 phone calls, and okay, I'm ready to go. Right, where a high school kid, you're really developing that relationship, and I think that's one of the the negatives about the portal is that there's probably going to be a few more mistakes, even though they have a track record. You could see some mistakes being made too.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I would think that, and the NIL hasn't really factored in majorly yet into baseball, but it's going to. I know one large Big Ten school that's about to drop some serious dime on their program. I would think it perhaps be used not only for top recruits, but possibly kids with a big social media following. Follow me on this one, because they also have to have game. Obviously, they've got to be good, but if they've got a big social media following, NIL money is based on brand exposure. If it might be a local company, a car dealer for local stuff, but it might be a big brand name, and they want to support their players like Nike does over at Oregon, right? So, I mean, the kids are like brand evangelists. I wonder if there would be any play on that angle for you, where let's say you've got a kid who's got a 4-point GPA, 450 BA, big on base percentage, 250,000 followers, as opposed to the kid who's got the same, but he has 2,000 followers. But you've got to stay competitive in the recruiting game. Is that now, or is that a couple years from now, or hopefully never?
At our level, right? We're a mid-major level,
Right, right.
Our low budget, right? So
Yeah.
it really doesn't affect us right now because we don't have NLI money, right?
Yeah.
I wish we did, but we don't. And especially with this NLI money, until I actually start seeing these kids actually get the money that you're hearing. I mean, you're hearing some of this, even it is trickling into baseball, right? I think the SEC, they're starting to trickle into SEC a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
But like for us, even like in the Big South, I haven't heard any of the schools able to give NLI money. Now, is our kids making a little bit of money? Yeah, there's some of our kids, as you mentioned, Kelly, have a pretty good big social media follow, and they got maybe a couple of them have a couple little different health drinks or something of that nature, and they get a little discount and that type of thing. But as far as big money, or we're able to even talk to recruits about that, we're nowhere close to that, right? We're nowhere close to that. And again, when it starts getting to the mid-major level, then we'll probably have to do something. But I just don't think it's at the mid-major level at this point right now. And I could be wrong, but again, that really hasn't affected me, or even the kids that we're recruiting right now haven't even had it mentioned to us, right? And again, sometimes when you're starting to recruit against your own peers, right? Teams that we recruit against all the time, you'll start hearing, say, well, University X is I'm able to do this with NLI money, right? Well, we haven't heard that, right? You're hearing it with Alabama and Texas A&M and LSU and the big football powers, right? They're able to do stuff, but from our standpoint, right, it hasn't crossed my path this summer.
Yeah, not yet. Yeah. What do you think of that, Rick?
I don't know. He's got a tough road to hoe. I feel bad. Tommy, let's talk a little bit about your ball club and some of your good players and who's coming back and really what are you out there recruiting for right now? So, kind of amp up the wins for next year.
Two tough years the last 2 years, from 14 to 20, we had this thing go in the right direction, won a couple conference championships. And then, of course, 21 was a COVID year. And then last year kind of leaked into it. So we're really excited. To be honest, we're really excited about our roster. We did have some changeover, but we felt like we've really made some progress, bringing in some older guys in, as Mark Kirkland, right? We talked about Mark. We think Mark's going to be a really good player for us. Grant Shepard is a portal guy from Kansas. I've known his dad for a long time. He was a long-time college coach at Jacksonville in North Florida. So those are some of the things we're excited about. Ty Hooks is our catcher. He was an all-star in the Valley League, has had 2 really good years for us. So we're excited about what he's going to come back and bring some leadership. CJ Conrad came off injury last year, got to play a full year, great leader. So we're real excited about him. So we got some pieces that we need to put in. The biggest thing is trying to put them all together, because we're going to probably end up having, about 15 new guys. So what my job is going to be is making sure that we mesh all the 15 new guys with the returning guys, make sure our culture where it needs to be, making sure that we're communicating with them, making sure we have an environment that's a positive environment to move forward for next year. So those are the things that I'm really excited about, rather than, the specific guys, because we're going to have some unknowns. We're going to have some unknowns, but that's a great thing about baseball in the fall. We get to develop that trust between one another. We get to develop, camaraderie, team cohesion, get them out on the field, because we're probably about a month away before we really start getting them in school and getting going. But I'm very excited about the season coming up.
Coach Tom Riginos of Winthrop University, thanks for joining us, and good luck in the recruiting battles. We're definitely going to be watching you, and that's about all the time we have for tonight. Rick, any parting words?
Well, no, other than build up the middle. I love that fact you got a good all-star catcher. You can get a good one out there to help that pitching staff out and get them through some tough times. That's going to take you a long way. You already know that. Get a few big boppers like Earl Weaver always wanted. The 3-run home run.
3-run home run, that's right. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Thank you, and good luck to you, Tommy.
Okay, thanks, Rick. Kelly, thank you.
From all of us here at the Prospect Blueprint, we tell you to keep your chin in and your eyes on the ball. Coach, we'll see you down the road. Coach Dempsey, see you down the road.